Good evening, guests. Welcome. We're going to wait for a few more folks to join us, and then we'll get started shortly at 6 o'clock. Good evening, guests, and welcome. We have a couple more folks coming in. Before we get started, Karen, will you be able to make an interpretation announcement for us?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Park. Interpretación en vivo. Usted puede escuchar la interpretación al español simultáneamente de las reuniones de Adams 14 en línea. En su pantalla, en la parte inferior central, tendrá un botón en forma de globo con opciones para interpretación. Haga clic en el globo y seleccione el idioma español. En ese momento, comenzará a escuchar la interpretación simultánea. Gracias.
Thank you, Karen. We have a couple more guests still joining in that I can see. So we'll wait just a second here for them to join us, and then we'll get started here shortly. Good evening, guests. We have a couple more folks coming in, so I want to make sure that they're able to join us. Karen, because we have some more guests coming in, would you mind repeating our interpretation announcement for us, and then we'll begin?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Park. Interpretación en vivo. Usted puede escuchar la interpretación al español simultáneamente de las reuniones de Adams 14 en línea. En su pantalla, en la parte inferior central, tendrá un botón en forma de globo con opciones para interpretación. Haga clic en el globo y seleccione el idioma español. En ese momento, comenzará a escuchar la interpretación simultánea. Gracias.
Great, thank you, Karen. So welcome, Adams 14 community. My name is Sheila Burke, and I'm honored to serve this year as the Chief Academic Affairs Officer for Adams 14. We are so thrilled to have you here and join us for Adams 14 online program family informational session. So thank you for taking time out of your night tonight to be able to join us. This is the second part to our two-part series here. And we brought back some topics that some of our parents at our previous meeting wanted to know more about. So as a reminder, for anyone who is speaking this evening, please remember to talk slowly as the interpretation is managing live interpretation services tonight, and we want to make sure that our viewing audience is able to hear and receive the information being presented. Once we begin our question and answer session for this evening, attendees will be able to ask questions verbally by raising a digital hand or by writing a question using the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. All attendees will be muted, and if you raise the digital hand to ask a verbal question, you will be prompted with a text box to unmute yourself so we can hear your question in Spanish or in English. No need to worry about your camera, as this is not a function on the platform that we're using tonight. So you'll be able to see us, but we won't be able to see all of you. Tonight, a few of my colleagues will be providing information on attendance, remote learning, mental health and behavior, special education services, and language services, all as it relates to our remote program in Adams 14 online. We will also again host a question and answer session. Please note that during this session, we will prioritize our parent and guardian questions. Thank you again for joining us tonight to deepen our knowledge of Adams 14 online. At this time, I would like to turn our presentation over to my colleague, Dr. Porter Cottrell. Dr. Cottrell?
Thank you, Mrs. Burke. And welcome, everyone. Tonight, the purpose of our meeting is to talk a little bit about remote learning and the remote learning environment that we have developed here in Adams 14. Tonight, we're hoping for an understanding of everyone's role in remote learning and how that factors in to how we're going to continue school this year. We've been doing this now for about a year, but at this time, some parents have decided or some families have decided to go back to school, and some have decided to be on remote learning. So we are ready to create a remote learning environment that is robust and very positive for everyone. Tonight, we will go through the mission and vision of the district, the attendance, remote learning, some remote learning opportunities and platforms. We'll talk about a little bit about mental health and behavior with remote learning, special education, English language development, gifted education, and how the nutrition will factor in. Again, Adams 14 online is just like every other school or every other part of our schools, because we are really just a component of the schools that we have this year. We have about 51% of the students who have chosen to stay with remote learning. So we are here to educate, inspire, and empower our students. Our Adams 14 vision, just like for our in-person learning, for our remote learning, is to work on engagement, collaboration, and mutual respect with parents, administrators, and our community partners for Adams 14 to create a safe and positive learning environment for all of our students. This year, we're excited to begin our remote learning opportunities, and we're really excited about a real strong start. And I believe our teachers, they've been working really hard and to transform from what they were doing between March and now. And now they're excited to start this year in the remote classroom again. I really think that you're going to see some innovative teaching and learning opportunities. I'm a big fan of blended learning opportunities in general, but the work that our teachers have been doing this year really has an opportunity for, I think, really an exciting learning opportunity for your students. I think that we have a real talented and empowered teams. They now have the best of both worlds. They can work with each other within their school system. I mean, within their actually school buildings, but they also can work with the remote learning teachers. And I think this creates a real powerful bond for us, for our Adams 14 teachers. We've discussed and the teachers are excited about creating a positive and joyful learning environment for your students. But they are going to continue to keep a culture of accountability and excellence, which Adams 14 has strived for. Attendance. Could the representative who's going to discuss attendance unmute yourself and talk a little bit right here.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Roden, and I'm the Executive Director of Student Services. And tonight I will be discussing attendance, our attendance liaison, for our attendance liaison who could not join us tonight. For our remote learners, we will be taking attendance daily while they are in school. So for our elementary students, that's 4 days a week. At the middle and high school, it does mean that we will be taking attendance for every class that they do attend, just as we would be in an in-person environment. So they will get period by period attendance. Families are expected to contact their school attendance liaisons regarding absences. So if your student is ill or if you have a family situation that your student will not be in school that day, we do ask that you follow your typical attendance procedures, which is calling to the school and letting your attendance liaison know the reason for the absence and follow the typical attendance procedures. And not only is attendance important, the engagement that your child brings to their class is critical to their success and to be moving forward through the curriculum so that all our students learn and take a full opportunity to the those creative, innovative lessons that Dr. Cottrell was just referring to. So we do ask that our students log in, stay the full period, and engage to the best of their ability in all their classes. Okay, next slide. So if you have any questions about attendance or engagement, we are here to support you and your student. So your first step, if you have any issues with attendance or engagement, is to please reach out to your attendance liaison. At that point, we can work with the building principal or the assistant principal to discuss any specific situations that are unique to your family. We also will involve our school counselor. And we will also have district level support. We have Melba Velasquez Rosario and Flor Minjeros Ponce, who are our attendance staff at the district level. What they do is they work with the attendance liaisons to ensure that our records are accurate and they reflect what your student participated in. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about remote learning and technology. Maggie, would you like to unmute yourself and?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Maggie Green, and my role in Adams 14 is the coordinator of educational technology. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about remote learning and technology and reviewing some information that can be found on our Adams 14 website. Who should parents contact for technology-related support? Students and parents can contact their teacher for any support related to technology. So we recommend that if you could help your teacher know whether that issue is related to the function of the district device, whether that is an iPad, a Chromebook, or a modem for internet connectivity, or if it's an issue related to technology and accessing the learning materials, such as online curriculum. This information will help your teachers provide the best support, whether that's through a resource or directing you to a department that can help answer your questions. Thank Thank you. What terms related to remote learning are helpful to know? So you have probably become familiar with terms such as synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning is the learning that happens with the teacher, mostly live in Google Meet, and that's happening at the same time, maybe in a whole class setting or a small group. And it could even be a one-on-one individual meeting with the teacher and student. Asynchronous learning is learning that can happen anytime. So that's typically self-paced and sometimes independent, and it would be done on the student's own time. So that will be probably what Fridays look like when students in middle school and high are asynchronous. What are the online tools and resources that students may use? So among many, the most popular that students will be using are Google Meet for live video meetings with their teacher. Google Classroom is where they will be turning in assignments and collaborating or communicating with their teacher and classmates. And Clever is used for accessing curriculum as well as other resources. So most students will use these tools daily among others that are provided to them to support with online learning. Where can I find resources for technology? You can find them on the Adams 14 website. At the top, there is a menu and a list of tabs. If you select the About tab and choose from the drop-down menu, you'll see Technology and EdTech. There is a resource there that is titled Navigating Remote Learning at Home that has video guides as well as other resources that cover everything from online curriculum to accessing Chromebooks or getting support for technology. And if your child will be having a different teacher with this transition, you can also find a very helpful guide on how to locate your teacher's email address through Infinite Campus.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Now to present some information on mental health and behavior. Allison, could you please unmute yourself?
Hi, my name is Allison Dinkin, and I am the mental health coordinator here at Adams 14. So transition to a new form of online learning. We know that students have been doing online learning for, as Mr. Cottrell had said, almost a year. However, some of them may have teacher switches just due to the teachers that are staying home. And so I think it's important to talk about, although they're not new, coping with any change right now can feel really difficult, especially in a world where there's so much unknown and so much feels like they're that is out of the control of the kiddos. And as we've talked about in the past, but it continues, if students are struggling to engage, consider setting up a reward system. This can be kind of check boxes or X's every time that something, doing a piece of schoolwork or doing something positive at home is done. And then they get a reward when they do a certain number of checks or they do a certain amount of schoolwork. I would encourage the rewards to be something outside of a screen, such as going on a family walk together, baking something together, doing something that is spending time and connecting, and really providing positive feedback to your student when their work is completed to help keep them motivated. We know that sometimes online it's a lot more difficult to stay engaged and to stay motivated. So any cheerleaders on the side, especially from guardians, are welcomed, and to really celebrate those goals when they are met. Next, please. So here are just some tips for how you can support their student if they're upset or they're really struggling. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do online learning. This is too much. I need a break. Practice deep breathing. A really good just kind of vision to see it is to smell the roses and blow out the birthday candles. And this is something that you can do together with your student. Let's take a break together. Also considering physical movement. So shaking off the thoughts and feelings and emotions that are going on, shaking off the stress, having a dance party together at home, really just getting some of the energy moving, and taking a brain break away from the screen is also really important. As we know, screen fatigue is a real thing. And so going for a walk, playing with your pet, doing something that's just like, all right, I'm going to take a couple minutes and move and come back when I feel ready. And remind your students as well that it's okay to feel their feelings. What I hear you saying is you're worried about this, you're feeling frustrated about this, you're concerned about this. And those are really good ways to kind of validate your students' emotions if they're having a rough time. Next, please. So the mental health supports are going to continue while your student is online. So school mental health staff, are here to support you and your student. So the mental health staff that will be in person are still able to help you and your student while they're online. So please feel free to call or email them. And if you have concerns, they can also, I skipped the bullet point. If you have concerns about your student, you can reach out to the mental health staff at your student's building. They are also able to make a referral to a school-based therapist. So if you feel like your student needs somebody to speak with ongoing, even though your student is online, they can still get therapy. And then if you have any questions, here is my email. I am the mental health coordinator here, and then Maggie Tice is our behavior consultant. And she's able to provide any support around students that are struggling with behaviors at home as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we will talk a little bit about special education. Lynette?
Good evening. Thank you all for attending this session. My name is Lynette Steinhoff, and I am the Director of Special Education here, serving your families. I wanted to just highlight a couple roles, responsibilities in which special education teachers are partnering with the general education teachers. I will let you know that this information was also shared with all of our education staff as well. So the roles of your special education teacher continues to be a supportive role in supplemental and intervention material with a very specific targeted approach based on individual needs. Our role is to support the general education teacher to understand various strategies such as differentiation of curriculum. So looking at how we're leveling the playing field, looking at a lesson and making sure that everyone in the classroom is able to master the content. We also want to make sure that our general education partners understand accommodations, your students' accommodations and individual needs, and then continue to progress monitor so that we make sure that your students are making positive gains. Next slide, please. So the ways that we're doing that, we are looking at a push-in model. And so we are very fortunate at the secondary level to have our case managers remain the same. So your students will have their same special education teacher. They will also have their same related service providers, such as speech language, mental health, or occupational therapy. So our teachers are pushing into the general education classrooms and being able to do small group instruction within that classroom environment. We also have co-taught classes where you have a general education teacher and a certified special education teacher providing lessons to, again, meet the needs of all students in the class, specifically a special education teacher meeting the needs of the individual students on IEPs. We also look to,
Pardon me, this is Cameron Wise, the tech supervisor, and our interpreter has asked if you could please slow down just a little bit.
My apologies, thank you. So again, our special education providers are pushing into the general education classrooms. We are looking at co-teaching as well as continued small group instruction. All of our IEP meetings will continue online. So to meet the needs of everybody attending, we will continue to hold those remotely. Next slide, please. Little bit of co-planning. So this is an area where our special education teachers and general education teachers work together to collaboratively lesson plan, again, to look at different ways to meet academic and or behavioral needs, and making sure that we have accommodations in place and additional considerations for students on extended evidence outcomes. Next slide, please. Again, differentiation is really looking at being able to adapt the instruction for a diverse group of students in the same course, in the same classroom learning environment, and ensuring that all students master the essential knowledge, concepts, and skills. It's not to be confused with scaffolding. That is an accommodation. So you'll see some of the good work that our middle school teachers have put forth. Next slide, please. Again, just reiterating small group. You may see that special education teacher in your general education classroom. They may also continue to do small group outside of that general education classroom, but we really emphasize the quality first instruction of the general education teacher. Next slide, please. So it's just reiterating that our providers are going to be in that classroom setting, in the remote setting, small group, in individual. Our contact information is listed below. We do ask that you reach out to the building level staff to include your building principal and special education staff. My email is listed here, and Sarah Nyman is our secondary special education coordinator, whose email is also listed here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. English language development, Dr. Lopez, if you could unmute.
Sorry, I jumped the gun, Porter. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks for having me, everyone. We're so excited to host you here. My name is Tanya Lopez, and I'm the Director of Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Education in Adams 14. And so what we do is we support students who are learning maybe a second language or have an influence of another language at home. Our job is to ensure that they continue to develop their language and are successful in their academics. So we're going to do that two ways, and we have been doing that for two ways. The first is through what we call dedicated ELD. So our students receive a dedicated ELD block or English language development block every day. And that means during that time, they're receiving direct instruction like vocabulary, learning about grammar, and trying to relate back to some of maybe the content that they're learning in their other classes. This is specific to their language level, and the teachers that teach these courses are trained to do so. Teachers use specific materials for these classes, and these are the same classes that they're receiving in person, and they will continue online. Cameron and Porter. The second piece is what we call integrated ELD. So that means that our teachers are trained and are required to make sure that students are accessing content across all of their subject areas. So that means whether they're in science or social studies, math, or language arts, their teacher is ensuring that the student can understand the content regardless of the language they speak. And sometimes that's really difficult if you're learning a new language online and you're learning online. There's a lot of text. Teachers may need to provide more opportunity for you to talk or provide visuals. And so these are some of the things that our instructors have been working on. And my name is Tanya Lopez, and I'm available to answer any of your questions. My email is listed here below. And if you reach out to the district offices, I'd be happy to meet with you or have someone on our team meet with you to talk about any issues you may face as we continue this journey together. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Gifted education. Della, could you unmute and discuss gifted education?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Dr. Della Palacios, and I am the Gifted Education Coordinator in Adams 14. Here are our frameworks of talents and gifts in Adams 14. This framework outlines the various ways that we identify students as gifted and the way we program. It is also a graphic that you can use to reflect, where do you see your strengths in this graphic? Where do you see your child's strengths in this graphic? Because gifted education is a world of strengths. We identify strengths, we service strengths, we lead with strengths. This year, teacher leaders have been developing learning portfolios for elementary and secondary students. These portfolios are going to be in place in our middle school GT and talent pool enriched classes, or with our GT students in talent pool. The elementary learning portfolio is completely optional. There is a vision for a student to graduate in Adams 14 with a portfolio that contains visible and audible strengths that that student can then use on a college application or take with them to a job interview. In our middle school, GT liaisons and administration will be receiving updated list of gifted and talent pool students who are both in the Adams 14 online program and who are returning to a hybrid program. The programming is going to continue with critical thinking, problem-based learning, and student learning portfolios. At the high school level, the advanced learning plans are blended with the ICAP, or the individual career and academic plan. Students set their own achievement and effective goals at this level. They are also going to be invited by email, and you will also be notified to create an optional learning portfolio in February. Identification is continuing. Our universal screening of 2nd and 6th graders has been rescheduled for between March 15th and April 9th. We will be able to screen in-person students, and we'll be inviting other students to come in to screen. Early access means early entrance to kindergarten or 1st grade for highly gifted students. The early access window application is open, and it will close April 1st. You can find that on the adams14.net website on the Gifted and Talented page. Referrals may still be made at any time. If you go to adams14.net and find the Gifted and Talented page, there is a family referral link. I do want you to understand that testing is delayed at this time and will resume when it is safe to do so in person. We have launched a brand new virtual enrichment offering. Session 1 is scheduled to begin the week of February 15th. Session 2 is in April. There are 5-week sessions, an hour a week, and there are a variety of virtual enrichment offerings. The virtual enrichment is free. It is open to all students, and it is available for students who are online. It is available for students who are in person. The instruction will be virtual, and if materials are required, they will be delivered. I encourage you to check out the catalog on the adams14.net website under gifted, we're actually under the district news. You can also find it as a Facebook post, and there was a flyer app notification. Please contact me at any time if you have questions. I am here to serve. Also, each building has a point of contact or a GT liaison. And I've listed their names here, so you can reach out to them directly as well in the school if you have questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Palacios. I appreciate that. Nutrition for online, for remote learning. Nutrition for remote learning will continue in the same, the meal services will continue in the same way that they have been doing those. And we expect that to continue throughout this remote learning experience. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Mrs. Burke for question and answer session.
Great, thank you, Porter. So as a reminder, for anyone who's going to be speaking this evening, please remember to talk slowly as our interpreter is managing our live interpretation tonight. In our Q&A section of this evening, attendees will be able to ask questions verbally by raising a digital hand or by writing a question using the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. All attendees will be muted, and if you raise a digital hand to speak verbally, you'll be prompted with a text box to unmute yourself so we can hear your question in Spanish or in English. Again, don't worry about your camera, as this function is not on this particular platform. So we will be able, you'll be able to see us, but we won't be able to see you. Our parent guardian questions will be prioritized tonight during our Q&A session, as well as our Adams 14 online questions. Any additional questions will be compiled and then posted on our district website under our Adams 14 page. And that will include any questions that we don't get answered here tonight. And so we're scheduled until 7 o'clock here. I will be calling on some of my colleagues tonight to be able to help with any responses. So colleagues, should you get called on tonight to help with a question, if you'll just unmute yourself and turn your cameras back on. Kadden, will you help us with questions to begin?
Yes, Ms. Burke, thank you. We have a couple of written questions. The first one is from Lauren Barajas, and it says, will this be posted after? Meaning the information in the presentation, I believe. Lauren, if you mean something else, please let us know.
Thank you, Kadden, and thank you, Lauren, for the question. So yes, our presentation will be posted on our website, and that will go up tonight. Our questions will be compiled, translated, and those will take anywhere from 2 to 4 days for us to compile and translate and get posted. And those will also go up on our website.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Our next question is from Nicole Calzada. What will the remote learning look like for the high school SSN children and teachers? And what are you doing to accommodate and help out the teachers?
Great, thank you, Nicole. I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Steinhoff.
Thank you for the question, Nicole. In our secondary settings, remote learning will be supported in all of our classrooms to include the center-based SSN classroom through a certified teacher and paraprofessionals. So they will be receiving instruction as they have been receiving for the past 10 months. Similarly, our related services providers, such as speech language and occupational therapy, will also be providing their services remotely. So they will have the support of the peer professionals and the special education teachers to be able to serve those minutes. We are helping to support our general education peers, as well as our special education teachers, with an outreach of our office and our building administration, who has worked tirelessly to help support their teachers as we navigate back. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ms. Steinhoff. And Karen, before we go to our next question real quick, I wanted to make a quick clarification. Tonight's presentation is being recorded, and our video recording will take us 24 hours to process, and then that will be added to our district webpage. Our slide deck presentation that Dr. Cottrell walked us through tonight with the visuals, that will be posted tonight. Thanks, Karen, for letting me clarify that real quick.
Thank you, Ms. Park. Our next question is from Emanuel Zamora Galarza. The question is in Spanish. I will read it in Spanish and then I will repeat in English. ¿Qué hago para registrarme en el programa en línea? What do I need to do to register on the online program?
Manuel, thank you for the question. So to register for the online program, you'll work with your school's secretary to be able to register your child or students if they're in multiple schools for online programming. They may ask you a couple of questions to make sure that we have the best placement for your child. And then you'll be able to do that by calling the number on your school's website that leads right to their main office. And if you ask for the school secretary, they'll be able to get your child registered.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Our next question is from Gilbert. My first grader have group meeting for Fridays. Do they need to log in for those group meetings? Do we log in or not to log in? And will they get all their schoolwork at once or throughout the day? Because last week, my first grader didn't get any online work.
Gilbert, thank you for the question. On Fridays, students may be participating in a small group based off of the information our school teachers will be collecting throughout the week. So if we're finding that students may need additional support, have acceleration opportunities that Dr. Palacios talked about, then they may be called into a small group on Friday. Those are flexible, and so some Fridays your child may be participating in a small group, and some Fridays your child may just be simply doing their asynchronous learning or independent learning that is established in either Google Classroom or in Seesaw. Each Friday, your child should be assigned work from their classroom teacher, again, either in Seesaw or in Google Classroom. And your child will receive a notification through those same platforms for their small group instruction. If your child, again, is not in a small group instruction on Friday, and some children will not be, then they'll simply follow their asynchronous learning outline that the teacher has provided them with.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Our next question comes from M. Rios, and she would like, or he would like to ask the question over the Zoom call. So we'll let them talk.
Hi, Sheila. It's Melinda. So I have a few little notes that I've kind of been asking already. I've talked to my personal schools. I wasn't aware of the A and B groups before, and now that they're out, I know a lot of parents have been frustrated because they didn't know this before they committed to the online or the in-person. I'm okay with it. My concern mostly is, are the kids gonna get the exact same amount of teacher time since they're going from 2 classes a week with a teacher down to just 1 class a week? And if I know when I talked to the schools, they felt confident that it was gonna get done, but what is the plan if that doesn't end up working out?
Melinda, thank you for the question. So as we go into the Adams 14 online program and in-person.
Pardon me, Sheila, this is Cameron.
Go ahead.
I anticipate that it would help the interpreter if you were to repeat that question, paraphrasing it, and that would give the interpreter another opportunity to share that question with the Spanish-speaking audience.
Will do. Thank you, Cameron. Melinda, I'm going to summarize your question and what I believe I heard you saying, and you can correct me if I missed it here. So Melinda, what I heard you saying is, will students who are going in person under the AB schedule receive the same amount of content and instruction from those that are going to be receiving instruction from Adams 14 online teachers that may have 4 days with their instructor? Is that accurate?
Yes.
So thank you for the question. So the answer is going to be yes. Students will receive the same amount of content, as teachers are going to be following our district-wide pacing guides and unit plans. And that'll be true for students who may be receiving instruction through Adams 14 online or through in-person in one of our physical buildings. The content and the standards that students will be receiving in their learning will be the same. The mode in which they're going to receive that information will look different based off of the environment they're in, whether it's remote or in person, and then the online tools that'll be accompanying each of those. So students will still be expected to follow the same essential targets and state standards. Students who are in person will receive that 2 days a week from their instructor, followed by their small groups. They'll also have their 3 days of asynchronous learning, still working on those same standards, similar to those that are going to be in remote. Again, the method in which they receive that information just may look different based off of the environment the child and parent have selected.
Okay. And then I have one other, I guess kind of comment / question.
Sure.
Is, so because parents didn't know about the AB schedule before they committed, because those details weren't out when we had to commit, and I brought this up before, and some schools have been like they've worked with them, and some schools have kind of said no from what I've heard. I just want to know, how do parents go about switching if it's not going to work for them because of that way, because they didn't know? And I know from what I'm hearing is that they can't switch until the new quarter starts. But if they're not comfortable now, what are their options? And how are we, if we do want to change with the new quarter, when is that information going to come out for parents to know?
Thank you, Melinda. So I'm going to summarize your question again, and then you can tell me if I'm accurate.
Sure.
So what I hear really is, how do parents go about switching their child either from in-person to remote, or from remote to in-person? Really, what is that process? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for that. As we are going into the middle school transition next, which begins on Monday, if parents are looking to shift the environment in which they've asked for their child to receive instruction in, They would do that through contacting their school principal or the principal's designee. So you'd reach out to your school leader and they will either schedule a phone call with you or a Google Meets meeting so that they can hear out the concern of the parents and then talk through possible solutions around that, and then taking any action steps needed, whether that's changing the environment. And in some cases, the parent may be satisfied with the results or the conversation itself, but principals will be able to help guide that at the building level.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the parents that aren't comfortable because they didn't know the details, they can change right now, or do they still need to wait until the next quarter starts?
So the quarter ends for us March 12th, and the timelines are set up where at our middle school level and high school level, where students may have been in school in those environments for a week. And for the high school setting, maybe for the middle school, maybe a week and a half. For the high school setting, it would be a week. And so we want them to be able to work with their school leaders, and they will handle those cases one by one as they come in. For parents that are looking to, like I said, either change from in-person to remote or from remote to in-person. Please note that as school leaders look through that, there are things that we consider in there, such as class sizes, FTEs, and so we want to look at the entire package to making sure that we have the best placement for the student and the staff. And the principal will help to do that through the conversation once the parent reaches out to the school leader.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Our next question is from Leonela Arreola Ramirez. Hello, I have been trying to contact Adams City High School office for 3 days regarding my status of going to in-person or online, but they have not been answering. So we left a message, yet they have not called back. My question is, when are the office hours for Adams City High School?
Leonela, thank you for the question there. Adams City High School's office hours is they begin at 7:30 and then they are done right at 2:50, I believe. Grab the times here. 7:30 to 2:50. I'm gonna give you the phone number. So if you have a second to grab a pen and pencil, or pen and paper, excuse me. Their phone number is 303-289-3111. And I'm also going to give you my office number. Should you not get a call back tomorrow or not able to get through, then I want you to contact me so that I can help to assist you. And my phone number is 303-853-3258. I apologize that you weren't able to get a response back today, so I'll make sure to contact Mr. Santos to let him know. And then just give a reminder to our office staff to make sure that they're responding to our phone calls and parents' needs as they're coming in. So if you'll try that number tomorrow, if you don't get a response back, please feel free to call me before the end of the day and we'll make sure that we make a connection for you at Adams City High School. And again, I apologize.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Our next question is from Angelica Garcia. Is it true that kids that are in person will only have a teacher 2 days a week and the rest of the time is independent work?
Angelica, thank you for the question. So at our elementary level, and that includes preschool, Our elementary students will have contact with their teachers 4 days a week through in-person learning. At our secondary levels, students will follow a hybrid or an A-B schedule. During that time, students will have contact with their in-person teachers 2 days per week, with the third day being their small groups, which will happen on Fridays. And on those Friday sessions, students will have contact with their teachers in that small group through their Google Classroom or Google Meets platform. The other 2 days for our secondary students will be part of their asynchronous learning, which means that students will be learning independently through either classroom videos, technology video clips that may be set up, or other online tools that are set up in either Google Classroom or in Seesaw for the students to complete, and that'll be part of their instructional day. And that would be true for students that are in person at the elementary level. So they may have 20 minutes of in-person instruction from their teacher during their whole group, or what we refer to as whole group. And then they'll also have independent time where it's seat work at their desk that they may be completing for their assignments during that time. And so it's just structured kind of slightly different, but essentially it equates to the same amount of time over the course of the 2 days of in-person and the asynchronous work.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Our next question is from Randy Lynch. What if I want my student to return to in-person learning? Why are online students not having remote learning just because the schools are closed? Why shouldn't the remote students still be learning? It's bad enough that they have so many breaks on Fridays.
Randy, thank you for the question. Karen, would you mind repeating it? I wanted to make sure I answered the question, and I heard pieces of the comment in there.
Absolutely. What if I want my student to return to in-person learning? Why are online students not having remote learning just because the schools are closed? Why shouldn't the remote students still be learning? It's bad enough that they have so many breaks on Fridays.
Thank you, Brandy, for the question, and Karen, thank you for repeating it. So to return to in-person learning, Brandy, you would follow the same process by reaching out to your school leader, and they would have a conversation with you again, whether it's over the phone or via Google Meets, to be able to talk through and merely making sure that we're hearing the need that you have as the parents and making sure that we have the best placement for your child. Part of the work on Fridays is for us to be able to work in small groups with our students. Some of the breaks in there are allowing for our students to have some downtime with screen time so that they're able to rest. So they may have some independent activities, which may consist of one of their consumable books. It may be, if it's physical education, an opportunity for them to be able to do some exercise. As is in person, we typically have some of those times built into the school day, just the way that it's structured. I'm going to call on some of my colleagues here to see whether it's Della, Tanya, Lynette, Allison, if there's other things here that you would like to add to Brandy's question that I may have missed.
Thank you for that, Sheila. Randy, that's a really great question. Special education staff will also be reaching out for specific groups on Fridays as permits, along with their general education teachers. So you may see some services from our special education teams on Fridays.
Thank you so much, Ms. Steinhoff. We have our next question from Lauren Barajas. Will the teacher be teaching online and in class at the same time?
And I want to make sure I heard the question correctly. Was the question around if teachers will be teaching in person and online?
At the same time, correct.
So for our elementary students, the answer is going to be no. If the students are coming to in-person learning, our teachers will solely instruct the students that will be in person. For our Adams 14 online students and staff, they will service and instruct only students that will have remote students. At the secondary level, students that are participating in person will also receive instruction from an in-person teacher, and students that are participating in Adams 14 online will also receive instruction from an Adams 14 online or remote staff member. Now, there are a few exceptions to this at our secondary level specifically, so that we didn't have to collapse any of our current class offerings. And those are courses such as some of our AP or advanced placement classes, our concurrent enrollment class offerings. And so because those teachers are few, and because of the nature of the course, we wanted to make sure that our students had plenty of opportunity to be able to continue with that class. And so there may be a section where that teacher is teaching either in person, and they may have a section where they are teaching to remote students. That way the students still have the opportunity to participate in a class, for example, advanced placement or AP Spanish. We want to make sure that students have the accessibility to be able to offer that course and continue with it without having to remove it. Our school leaders at the secondary level are working with the teachers that teach in those specialized courses to make sure that it's a good fit for the teacher themselves and for the students. Lynette, I'm going to ask you to talk just a little bit about what that looks like for special education.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Could I ask that you just summarize that very quickly for me?
Yes, so as we talk through what special education services look like and teachers, if they'll be having caseloads both for in-person and online students.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. So your case managers that you have had throughout this beginning of this school year will remain as such. And so your students will continue to have those services through the case manager or your special service provider that has been working with your students since August. So that does include our related service providers, our speech language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, mental health, and vision, or our DHH, our deaf and hard of hearing program as well.
Thank you, Ms. Steinhoff. Our next question is from Laura Botello. I heard that because of the current situation we are in, the access testing is optional this year for online students since it's only done in person. Is this true for in-person students as well? And are parents made aware of this?
Thank you for the question. So I'm going to ask Dr. Lopez to talk a little bit about this. And Dr. Lopez, if you'll talk a little bit between the difference between our access testing and our other state assessments from CMAS, and more specifically around access being a federally mandated assessment and CMAS being a state level mandated assessment.
Absolutely, Sheila. I think that that's probably a really nice distinction to make. And as we've been planning for this over the past few months, realizing we were coming back, we've had to do a lot of thinking and planning about what these are and really getting some great information for people. So just really quickly, the access test is written into federal law. So it's part of not only federal law, but we also have state codes requiring it. Some of the other guiding documents that we use for language services is something that we call the Dear Colleague letter. And it's a joint letter from the U.S. Department of Justice, as well as the U.S. Department of Education's Civil Rights Division. It's really looking at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So we see, so not only is access testing federally required, it's federally required because it's seen as a civil right, so that we are required to provide language services to students. We're required to place them in language services that are at their level, and then we're required to monitor their progress, and we're required to, that's the only way, according to the Dear Colleague letter, that we move them out of services. So those things make it a little different than CMAS. And so in the past, there's been no formal way to opt out of access. In fact, if you were a parent who said, you know, I really don't want my kid in ELD classes anymore, they still received access to ensure that we were doing, as a school system, our job in providing language services to children. Now this year's different, and things are always different. And so the guidance that we received from the Colorado Department of Education says that if it's not safe for students to come to school because of something going on in the family or the health conditions in the community, then we don't have to require students to take the assessment. We're required to provide it, and parents can make that decision whether they bring their students in or not. We are requiring it for our in-person students to try to fulfill some of the requirements. We haven't received a waiver from the state. We haven't received a waiver from the Department of Justice, from the Office of Civil Rights, or from the Department of Education to not provide this exam. And so we don't have a way to really waive that. But we do want to let parents know that they always have the option, that it's always their right to do what they think is best for their kid. So if bringing your child in to take the assessment is not in the best interest of your family, then the state is telling us that you will not be held accountable for that, that there's no repercussions for that. And if you're in person and you have questions about the assessment and the safety of the assessment inside the building, then talking to your school principal is the next step to go. Sheila, I just talked a lot, and I talked about a lot of laws, and I want to make sure, and it's 7 o'clock at night, we've all had a busy day, and I want to make sure that you feel like I've answered that thoroughly enough, because I think it is a complex issue.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lopez.
This is Cameron. I think it would benefit the interpreter if Sheila, you could summarize the answer in the salient points so that parents will be able to hear that as well.
Absolutely. So as Dr. Lopez had mentioned, there's a clear distinction between our federally mandated assessment, which is access, and students being able to show their proficiency level and what it is that they know through this particular assessment. Now, parents do have the option to opt out of this assessment, whether they're in person or remote, as that's true for any parent who is having their students take CMAS, which is a state mandated assessment. As a school district, we are bound to each of those. And as Dr. Lopez just mentioned, the Colorado Department of Education has not offered a waiver for us to not complete those assessments as a school district. Because Adams 14 Online serves a larger portion of students who speak a language other than English, primarily our Spanish-speaking population, we also have Arabic students, Somalian students, and they're required to take that unless the parent opts them out, and that's part of their parent's right. Dr. Lopez, if you will give your number out, because I also saw we're running short on time here, but I also want to make sure that parents have a contact tonight so that if they have questions tomorrow, we can make sure that we're answering those in addition to their school leaders. So Tanya, will you give out your number, please?
Absolutely, Sheila. My number is 720-322-8113. And my email address for the district is tlopez@adams14.org.
I want to be cognizant of our participants' time here and our audience members as we're rounding out to 7:10. But I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I know that we were not able to answer everybody's questions, so we will compile those and we will, whether they were answered or unanswered, and we'll put them in as responses. It'll allow the district to be able to take 4 or so days to be able to do that, as we want to translate those questions, and we will post them to our website. Our video from tonight's recording will also go up in addition to tonight's slide deck presentation. I'm going to give my number one more time too, so if you have any questions or want any follow-up for tomorrow, feel free to reach out to me. And I can also help to direct you to any other questions that you may have or to any of our facilitators that were on tonight's call. My number is 303-853-3258. Again, it's 303-853-3258. And I can help direct you with any questions that you may have and help you to make contacts with other of our district colleagues, both at the school level or at the district level. So thank you all again for your time tonight and for your participation. We're very excited to be able to be with you again tonight. But thank you all for your time, and we will be in touch soon. Cameron, I'm going to turn it back over to you and our communications team.
Thank you. In about 30 seconds, I'll go ahead and close the webinar. And thank you everybody for joining. We very much appreciate the parents and the staff who are here this evening. Thank you. Good night.